Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday show of A Healthy Life Show with me and Trevor. Thank you for joining us. Just a reminder that all of our live shows, we do a little intro of just like music while we get ready, kind of let people get settled in and actually on the live stream ready. So we'll do about like 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes of that, and then come into the talk show like we do right now. Once again, this show is sponsored by Trevor's Coffee Company, Crash Cart Coffee. Please go to their website and you can make orders online. They have great descriptions and it's really helpful. You can like basically pick out any flavor and basically range you want. They explain it really well from their origins, and I think that like have a flavor to like profiles are very interesting. You know, I mean, if you're buying coffee at the store, you don't really like get to see the differences like that unless you like really pay attention. So that's nice for variety. Um,
Hell
then
yeah. Thanks, buddy.
yeah, and then yesterday we didn't have our music show or gaming. We took a week off for that. Tomorrow we'll be having our new show with Tommy Summers, and Thursday we have our sports show again with me and Hunter. And we had lots of sports happening this morning. There's an IndyCar race at 3 o'clock, so I'm excited for that. Pato Award has pole, so very excited for that. He's a Mexican with an Irish name, Trevor, so I think that's cool.
Oh, hell
His
yeah.
name's
That man's
Award, and
going
he's
to the moon.
Mexican. Yeah, but he got some
Oh,
furry in him.
wow.
Yeah. Like, it
That
would have
man's
been worse
probably
if
a
it was like
wild
O'Doul.
boxer. Oh, yeah.
But I hope everyone had a good week and good weekend. You know, it's Sunday, things are coming down. We got for work week coming up. But the weather's getting a little nicer today. It's not as cold as it was yesterday, so that's nice. Try to get
Hell
outside
yeah,
some.
man. Them peas are up.
That's great. Yeah, all the frost hardy boys are coming up in the garden, right?
hmm I saw daffodils and crocus for the first time this week. Not in my own garden, in the gardens that I explore at work, but they're up. Dude, I saw these little baby daffodils this week that were maybe 3 inches tall and maybe a half an inch wide at the flower. They were so cool.
That's awesome. Wow. Little tiny boys. Um, this whole week's topic and what we're talking about most of this show will be gardening, as spring is coming, and we love gardening. We want to share a lot of
Yeah,
that
buddy.
information with you guys and kind of make this an informational video. Yep, it's gonna be awesome. Now, we'll
I
probably make
can't
some
wait.
videos like hands-on in the future with actually like showing off our gardens and stuff like that. But a lot of like this is actually just like better for people that are trying to learn as well.
Oh, gardening's probably one of the most impactful hobbies that I've ever picked up, dude. It like makes me feel so good, and it's so nice to be excited for something like year round. Like when
I
you get
agree
bored
too.
with
Yeah.
something, there's always something coming right around the corner to get ready for and to like get set up for. And every time you make something or you grow something that like knocks your socks off, it changes the whole next gardening season. Like I'm going ham on the carrots this year, dude. If I
Oh,
don't
that's
get
awesome.
a carrot the size of my forearm, I'm gonna be upset, but it's okay.
Mhm. No, that'd be great, man. I'm excited
Well,
for
they're
that.
so good. Fresh carrots are like sweet and like kind of spicy and like way more flavorful than anything I've ever gotten out of a grocery store. It was like life changing.
Wow. Hmm. I'm gonna have to try that out. Or eat some of yours too, because that
I should
definitely
have
would be
enough
cool.
to share because I put in that 15-foot bed
Mhm.
and lined out 2 whole rows with carrots. So I'm gonna have to thin it, but ideally I'll be running one every 2 inches,
Yeah.
one every 3 inches. But it'll I hope it takes off. Oh, actually, it might be 3 rows. I did three. I did Scarlet Nantes. I did
Cool.
I think it was called Davers 29 or Davers 129, and
Mhm.
then I did a kaleidoscope, which should be like green, yellow, and purple. I'm sorry,
Oh, cool.
orange, yellow, and purple.
Yeah. That's awesome. Um,
Apparently, they like
how?
sandy soil though.
Mm. But you can get sand, right? Make them more sandy.
The the compost topsoil mix that I finished that bed off with is
Mhm.
pretty rich in sand. I'm hoping to go back and amend it with some more like carbon based byproducts and carbon-based compost like leaves and cardboard and down other plants as the year goes on. But
Mm-hmm.
I just I'm hoping I didn't fill it with dirt hastily and should have made a more strategic move. But in the end of the day, like just keep putting compost on things and keep growing stuff in it and it'll correct itself.
Yeah. I kind of always thought like I put a bunch of soil in my pots and I'm gonna put it in my raised beds here this weekend because I always thought you wanted it to settle a little bit before you put everything in there.
You
But
do. I tried to wet it down real good
mm, yeah,
and gave it a couple of days, but like if I'm being honest, I was so excited that the weather was warm I couldn't help myself. I don't
eh,
even care if I wasted the seeds. I'll just go buy more. My brain needed that.
yeah. Now I get that one
It
too.
got filthy and it felt great. It looked like
So
pig pen.
we're basically gonna go over a lot of the major topics: how to garden properly, because there's a lot of them, and kind of ways to save your time and money with resources and materials throughout the process. At the start of our docket, we kind of have like the different stages of the actual like flowers or whatever you're growing itself. So we have like the seeding stage, veg stage, flowering stage, and there's more after that. Like obviously like cutting it up and drying it up, depending on what it is or how you store it. Um,
That's a whole different art too. Like that is wild. That's a
yeah,
whole different complex of things.
I can't wait to get some land. And I was watching videos of like potato storage, like little potato huts you could build just out of cinder block 2x4s and putting a roof over it and a door. And you said it's like in just out in your yard, but it'll store potatoes over winter. So I'm
I
like, that's
want to
awesome.
I want to bury half of a storage container and make a root cellar out of it, but then cover it back over with compost and topsoil so that way I can grow over top of it.
Oh, that's smart, man. That's sweet. That's real cool.
Just
Good
turn it into
idea.
like a huge hugelculture mound.
Yeah. And then you still have like, well, is the root cellar for all the roots, or can you grow in there too? Or are you just saying you're gonna actually cover it up, like no access
No,
to it
so a
again?
root cellar is like a no, a root cellar is like where you store some of your finished produce in a cool, dark environment, like your potatoes, your onions,
Mm. That's what I was
um,
thinking. Yeah. But how would you get
beets.
into it again? Like just have an access door
Yeah, dig a little stairwell,
to it? Yeah.
kind of be
I see what you're saying.
like a sub level.
Because it's a
I also want
hugelculture
to
thing,
do
but
like a
more
sub level
it's more of a
greenhouse.
storage thing, which I think's really cool.
Correct.
Yeah.
First purpose would be storage. Second purpose would be it was sticking up off the ground by 4 feet, so I covered in 3 more feet of dirt. Now I got a big hill to grow stuff on. Be a
Yeah.
bitch to cut with a lawnmower. Fuck that. You can just grow food there. You don't got to. It's optimized laziness. Let nature do nature, and then
No, it's
have a
smart though. Yeah.
byproduct that is awesome in your tummy.
Hmm. And then all you gotta do is control the storm water that's gonna run off that bad boy because you're building a mound. But you could use that to
Mm,
basically like power all the water of everything anyway. So you can make
that
your
would be
leach
sick.
fields pretty easily. Yeah. So we'll start with
I
the
uh
seed stage. Oh, well, you want to talk a little bit more, and then we can go into that.
I just had another idea. What if you put your orchards on either side of the hill, so that way they were taking your runoff straight to the trees?
Yeah. It would help them, but like they don't absorb water that much. Like it's crazy how much water will be coming. But that's kind of why you put those like I was showing you like straw or grass like leach in between like the lowest part of the weir or a swale. It's like the bottom part of a whatever ditch you're making. And that's gonna like stop.
Hashtag ditch witch.
Yeah, because you need to have like erosion control where it's just gonna like basically cause a lot of creep. Like in like Mill Creek when you're walking and you see the hills and just how there's a lot of creep, which is like when the trees move sideways off the original route.
Mm-hmm.
That's because of like water always hitting that tree over time. Um,
Interesting.
but like let's say they put gravel at the top of all of those hills, like big rock, like those trees would end up going straight. It's because of like
Hmm.
how steep the slope they are is on. Yeah, it's interesting. That's how you get like like landslides and mudslides in California. It's like a certain amount of water will hit a steep slope and just push all that shit down. It's crazy.
Dude, I watched a documentary last week on the ski resort in Lake Tahoe and how they controlled avalanches from hitting their like what like ski resort, and they used
Yeah,
like a shit ton of dynamite and had like strategic data points and like based off of like wind direction and snow depth and stuff and how big of a charge they would need. And they would just go up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and throw fucking dynamite everywhere. And they miscalculated at one point. I think it was in the late 80s, and the place got freaking obliterated by a giant avalanche. And it
that's
was like they
crazy.
knew all along like there's a high risk that this could happen, but they developed a good system to prevent it from happening, but got caught lacking. And it was like that the way of life for some of those like resort not managers but like the ski patrol, like that's just a wild way to live. Like you just get helicoptered into places, throw some dynamite, go skiing off like uncharted mountains, hope you don't die, throw more dynamite. Like that's just wild.
It is.
Wild. That's a job that probably only existed in the 80s.
Yeah, yeah. It's different now. I think they use like I don't even know. It's kind of like less explosive controls, but they just like cut snow in certain areas, and it causes it to like be okay. It's weird. Like you see, there's like snow cutting tests for avalanches, but oh,
I
it's
don't like the
interesting.
snow. I don't like being cold.
Not that
I
much
mean,
of
I'm
it.
a dangerous weapon on skis. Like throw 200 pounds of me downhill sliding. Oh, bro, I'm a force to be reckoned with. And I start having fun. Oh no, everybody's in danger, dude. I went skiing one time and almost caught a felony
Dang, almost
flying
hit
down the
someone.
freaking. Bro, dude, I was dangerous. I was moving like 100 miles an hour and almost killed everything in my path.
Like a
Like I didn't
train.
know how to stop. It was like a train.
You got a pizza to stop,
Wind up
right? French
accidentally.
fries to go, pizza to stop.
Bro, there was nothing. It was just I would just dive forward onto my belly and hope I didn't hit a tree and get put in a wheelchair. That was the riskiest thing I've ever done in my life. I will never go skiing again.
A lot of momentum
I
there
can
coming with
rollerblade,
you.
but like yeah, and I'm just like I'm uncoordinated. Like,
Mm,
I'm built like a Great Dane. Like there's just arms and legs just go everywhere. It
that's
doesn't
funny.
make any sense. And then you throw that sliding down a mountain. No, doomed.
No,
And
exactly.
everything on that mountain is at risk of getting posterized.
Mm, yeah, no, that's funny. And then you destroy a knee or destroy someone in your way.
Oh my
Don't want to do
God.
that.
No thanks. I'm good.
But so our first topic's kind of like the seeds and seeding stage, which we're just gonna talk about the stages and then go to the actual part of gardening. But it kind of like there's a lot you could do for seeds. Everyone has their own way, but a lot of people just start them up in trays. You can get trays at Walmart. Some people like plastic ones or like HDPE is what it's called, or you can go like cardboard. Is what the other ones are like fiber based ones
Peat
too.
moss kind of.
Yeah, PP
It's a
cups.
yeah.
Mm.
What's the word?
Because Walmart has
Biodegradable
so many crazy
substance.
ones. Yeah, and they'll have like ones that are like kind of
I mean,
like weird like spools of stuff, and you just like set the seed in it. But
mhm. Don't be fooled though. Like you don't need to spend a whole lot of money to start gardening.
no, and like I like the plastic trays because you can
It
just keep reusing them. It's either easy to wash and clean out.
mhm. There's a couple that you can like 3D print that I really have my eyes on that like have a hole in the bottom. So that way you can just like poke the plug up from the middle and you can check on the roots and just make sure they're not getting root bound.
Yeah, you have to talk with River.
We
She's made a couple of them. They're awesome. We did that for our certain plants that are in the basement. Um,
oh yeah. Those
and
they
like
ain't even certain plants, man. They're the best plants.
they're breakable too. The ones she had, so like you could just pop them out like the plug of the plastic cube and get it. And there was a way that like they had holes to like put in paper towels for wicking, so like that would really help it when I was young. I'll have to ask her to make another one, and we'll give it a year. But it was like, if you see one online you like, let me know, and I can send it to River, and they could print it out. Because all that stuff's like shareable
Sweet.
online, or they could find a way. Yeah, it's cool. That's probably the future because it'll be cheaper, reusable.
Future.
Um,
Future.
True, as well as heat mats. That's something that kind of goes with the seating and trays, depending on what you want or how
Yeah,
early you want
heat
to go.
mats are important. Well, it depends on what you want to start. Timing's key. I didn't realize like how important timing and order is. Like there's really an order of operations, especially in the beginning stages, because there's nothing more annoying than having an overgrown tray that's eating up a shit ton of space and can't go outside for another 3 weeks because you started it too early and they freaking banging right now. So it's hard. And then
Yeah.
there's certain things that are like sensitive to the amount of light that you expose them to, or like how much water you're exposing them to, or if they get any light at all while they're germinating. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of like little intricacies and moving pieces and parts, but like once you kind of figure out like the rhythm, you could throw more wheels on the bus if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What
Exactly.
are you getting ready to start anything new?
Probably my toms and eggplants. Because I just go by that planner app.
Tomatoes and eggplants.
Yeah.
Word.
Because that's one thing too.
I
Like
started
set.
my eggplants early this year.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. But like kind of like last year for tomatoes, that should work out. Because like if we don't like May 10th shouldn't be our last frost date. It should be earlier than that. And like every year, it's kind of like getting earlier than that. But we'll see. I mean, we might. But like a plant could survive
I've been
one night of frost, so it kind of older. You know what I mean? You can make it
yeah,
work.
for for safety's purposes, I've been estimating our last frost to be May 15th,
Mm, yeah.
just to give us a little bit more buffer time. Because if I have to keep all of this stuff crammed in this camper and take as close of care and pay as close attention of this stuff for it to die
Mm.
randomly because I got caught lacking in the middle of May, I'm gonna be freaking upset.
Oh, you keep talking. I gotta take a
So
call real
I'm
quick,
trying.
but keep going on about that.
Oh, I'm gonna be freaking upset if those things get waxed by a weird cold snap. But I uh I kind of have a little bit more of a system at this point. I just need more space for starting seeds. I have a friend with a large grow tent that he has in a bedroom and in his house that we've been starting other seeds in for like flowers and such, but we got to go in and tend to that probably today or tomorrow. Um, I did have a successful tray of onions from seed this year, which are challenging, but really not too labor intensive. They're light, so they're photosensitive, I guess is the correct term, meaning they get exposed to more light later in the season, triggering them to bulb, and less light in the beginning of the season, triggering them to grow like tall and lengthwise. Um, I accidentally killed the entire tray of onions that I put out last year. They wound up getting a fungal infection from poor airflow called dampening off. I can't remember the name of the actual culprit, but they dampened off. They got like this weird looking wet spot in the middle of the stalk, and then just like bent over and were unwell looking, and they did not survive. So I had to scrap that, and they're being avenged swimmingly this year. So I'm excited. I a full slab of herbs, oregano, thyme. I have not started my basil yet because it kind of grows a little off the chain. But oregano, thyme. I just had a sage pop yesterday. Um, I have a full tray of peppers that are going to be second generation this year, which is pretty hype. I was worried that I fumbled the bag with my seed uh, preservation. I had a couple of things mold, but it was my own error. I should have prepared the tomato seeds a little differently than I did. But the pepper seeds did survive, so I've got about 2 trays of my own pepper seeds, primarily Jimmy Nardello's and um, Hungarian hot wax peppers, because I'm a slut for hot peppers and oil. Also have eggplant down that I put down early with the peppers just because they're such slow growers. And last year I had them in what I thought was going to be a sunny enough spot to support them, but it really wasn't, and they did not put out fruit very quickly. So I'm going to have them up front and center at the front of the long bed this year at the bottom of the campsite, and hopefully they will get blasted by thine sun, and we will have some eggplant popping out to his house because my lovely lady is a big fan of the eggplant. No pun intended, really. Like if there was eggplant and zucchini available every day, it's just what we would have with dinner. Um, so I try to keep those on deck. I also have my wicked hot peppers because I like to make my own hot sauce. So we've got rounds of ghost peppers, Scotch bonnets, serranos, Thai chilies, cayennes, habaneros. I really like jalapenos too and cowboy candies, so we did the early jalapenos. I wanted to do Megatron jalapenos, which are like freaking gigantic. The jalapenos like half the size of my head, but I just forgot to pick them up. But it's okay. There's plenty more seasons to do. Plenty of peppers. I did some bells too and some sweet bananas because banana peppers on pizza bangs. Um, Oh, what else we got going on? I've got some cauliflower and broccoli, which I'm really excited for because I fumbled the bag with the cauliflower and broccoli. And starting brassicas is interesting because they're pretty root sensitive. But we have about 20 tall pots right now full of brassicas. I forgot to put cabbage down, which I'm a little upset about, but it's okay.
Oh dang.
We'll put a fall cabbage in, but it happens. Welcome back, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. I might have
I
to
was
look.
just
Maybe
updating
I
everybody
might
with.
have some extras. I'll have to look though. That's
I'd
really late,
appreciate
but
that. It's all right. I'd trade you. Oh, I got some dill too. I got some dill that's popping off right now. But
oh good.
I'm getting ready to put my tomatoes in and my basil and a slew of flowers. I'm just out of space in my place right now. I need another germination station.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard because like you can't do it outside in the greenhouse, right? Unless it until summer. But
Yeah, and even then, like I'm finding that these greenhouses are kind of purposeless. They don't keep things warm enough at night to be like to keep things outside. And then in the summer, they don't have good enough airflow to keep the temperature from not killing things.
there's like high
And
humidity
then,
and high temp at the same time to sock them.
yeah, it is not good. So I use them like primarily this time of year just to save myself a couple of degrees. But like I've kept a thermometer in it for over 2 years now, and I'm anal about trending my data just because science nurse brain. And it really only keeps us about 5 degrees above what it is outside. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of biomass in there. I did notice the worm farm that I was keeping in the big greenhouse did stay warm and stable for about a month. But once we got that hard freeze, they almost died. I thought that they would go dormant, but it turns out the species that I selected does not have a dormancy. When they freeze, they do not come out of it. So
Nice.
I was actually able to stat them over to a buddy's house, and he saved them with a heated blanket and some insulation panels. And to thank him, I'm going to knock him up a warm tower for himself to use for his coffee and kitchen scraps.
That's
And
awesome.
I mean, realistically, dude, when we have, I call it Shai Halud just because I got it while I was reading the Dune book series, but when we got Shai Halud and we have it, or when we have it and it's healthy and destroying things at the pace that it can, like we don't have but maybe one bag of trash a week, and that's just all like things you can't compost and stuff
Yeah.
that like realistically we should be able to recycle, but we can't recycle.
Yeah. That's nice. Yeah, since I recycle a lot, like I only do like probably 1 or 2 bags of trash a week. It's crazy. A lot of recycling bags though. I probably do like 2 or 3 recycling bags a week. But
Try and recycle as much stuff into the garden as possible too. Like this, like empty milk jugs, empty water jugs, empty yogurt bins, empty fruit trays, like all
mm,
that stuff you can grow seeds in. Right now, I've got lettuce growing in milk jugs,
I saw
folks.
that.
Like just
Yeah.
throw the lettuce, saw it in half,
Water
throw the
jugs.
lettuce in
Yeah.
it, duct tape the top back on. Yep. I probably got to go water them here. Yeah, probably today.
Yeah. Same. I
I'll
got
go
water after
get them
this.
opened up and get them a little wet.
But going back to
I
seeds.
love being in the garden.
Yeah.
What? Oh, back to seeds.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah,
Um,
because we'll be talking about
well,
like gardens as a whole more later too.
live time, Warzone 6B, and it is mid-March. So if you're going by the age-old proverbs, you should be putting peas and potatoes in on St. Patrick's Day. So right now is the time to get your peas in outside, get your potatoes in outside. Personally, I don't know if I'm going to grow potatoes this year just because they take a whole lot of space and a whole lot of dirt, and I did not get very good yield doing what I'm doing. I would like to grow them
Yeah, I
differently.
got a lot of like
But
long, skinny boys. Maybe it's just because of my
yeah,
garden, and they tasted really good. But I don't
I
know.
had a lot of green ones, and that kind of spooked me. And they were maybe that big at max, and was like, yeah. So I did not do much with them, and then I went back to them in the middle of winter, and they had molded. So it is okay. I'm just salty. I'm Irish at the core of it. Like I can handle a potato famine or two.
Yeah.
So
So after
we
heat mats, we had about lights for seating. Um,
mm, don't go ham right off the rip. Whatever you can get your hands on at Home Depot, like a shop light,
mhm.
that's good enough. Like if
That's
when
true.
you're getting crazy into like supporting like mature plants indoors, then you can kind of step the game up. But like, go grab the cheapest thing.
Hmm.
Some of the wisest words I've ever heard is start with what you have and do what you can.
That's smart. Yeah. I got some of them indoor
Just
lights
start
because I mean it kind of
anywhere.
depends on how your setup is. If you don't have overhang, go the cheap route. Um, but it's kind of hard when you don't have an overhang to hang the lights. But you can get like
Yeah.
$10, $20
Sometimes you
lights
gotta get
on
a little creative.
Amazon that just hang over. Just use them bad boys. Um,
Always use a fan when you're inside too.
yep, good call. And like I just bought like a
You
fan
get
at
weird.
Walmart, this plastic fan that moves,
Yep.
old reliable.
It just helps
If
keep your stocks from being super weak because they'll go outside and get stuck like this because the wind blowing in one direction and then they're all screwed up.
yeah,
But
stuck in the soil. And like if you got
um,
overhang, get the clip fans. Like that's the easiest for those. I feel like
yeah,
because you have some
I
supports with
recommend using a vertical approach. I just have a shop shelf and I hung lights on the top shelf from I use a taut line hitch for just about every problem in life.
mm,
So I just tie the taut line hitch around the shelf above it, hang the light in between it, and
yeah.
daisy chain the lights together. It's probably a wild fire hazard, but
Yeah, that's one thing. Don't
we
daisy
ball.
chain. But you if you got to, you got to. But it's pretty easy. Like it depends what it is. So like for lights I have, they're made to run off like daisy chain off each other. But obviously if you
Mine
got
are
like
LED to do that.
yeah, so if you got like three different types and that are not LED or like
Mm.
fluorescent, well basically what daisy chaining is
Oil lamp.
basically like plugging in an extension cord into a power strip. So like you can't really like mix things like electric like that. So like if you're just being smart and putting everything into a power strip, you're fine. And like that power strip could be connected to an extension cord, but it's just like having multiple extensions from a power strip is a bad thing because that's just how power regulates itself from that power strip. Because that one prong that's pushing all that power to extensions or other strips itself, maybe if you do a power strip off a power strip, that now needs more amperage than what it for one thing can handle. And it doesn't know that, but that's just an easy thing. Lights, I feel like lights are pretty easy, because it's just eight on, and then don't you go to 12-hour cycles or not until you're in veg stage?
Depending on the plant, I if it basically everything but onions right now, I run on like 18 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
So they shut off at what, 8 o'clock? I'm sorry, they shut off at 10 o'clock at night and then come on at 6. So I'm
So
usually
eight
in
hour
bed by
break.
10 and I sleep
Yeah, I
way
see.
past 6. But yeah, so most of the time that I see them, the lights are on.
Mm.
But um, the onions I did have on an 8 hour window where they were only getting 8 hours of sunlight for a long time.
Mm.
I increased it to nine after the clock sprung ahead just because I noticed that we were getting more daylight during the day. But at this point, I've
Mm.
hardened my onions into hanging out primarily outside. This week, I've been having to hustle my onions and my cauliflower, my broccoli back in the house in the evening because it's just I can't keep them warm enough out there. Those greenhouses just they're so unreliable.
Mm.
From like the plastic ones from Aldi's, I'd love to have a freaking glass one day. That's like a dream of mine. But I have this overall long-term goal I would like to tell you about the depression domes one day. So we'll get into that. But just running plants from inside to outside right now is kind of annoying, but we just put the plants in the shower at the end of the day and then bring them out when we wake up in the morning and
Mm,
they go back outside and it's I try and keep things as hardened off as possible so that way I don't have to worry about transplant shock.
yeah.
But like my flowers right now and my peppers are going to be inside for the foreseeable future because I'm not going to put anything that's going to get waxed outside until probably at least the first week of May. And
Yeah.
even then, like my teeth kind of chatter at night, and I just get so freaking angry when my plants die on my own, like because I was lazy and didn't bring something in, or if I've been like dropping something. It just makes me irate, dude. I didn't secure the one greenhouse down appropriately last week, and I was like, it's gonna be fine. I'll get a tent stake down once I have the tent stakes out. It'll be all right. I had like paracord at the bottom crossed and a heavy bin over top of it, and we got a windstorm that threw my plants all over the campsite, and we had to like hurry up and throw all the germinates back in pots and hope nobody like got waxed. But we got pretty good return. Not too many people
That's good.
perished, but as long as my onions are okay, like I genuinely, that's probably one of our most shop for crops at the grocery store. If we can get to the point where our onions are in the cellar, like that we have that covered, it would be huge money over the course of the year that we would save because we probably drop 12 to 16 bucks just on onions every time we go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Because like I put onions on everything. Same thing with garlic. Garlic goes in everything at my house. So it's like if we can stop spending $9 a trip on garlic, that would be wild.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I get that.
I also
100%.
bought melon seeds this year. I'm really hyped
Oh.
to try melons. I'm gonna do watermelon and cantaloupe,
Mm.
or muskmelon, I guess is the technical term.
That's funny.
But that and pumpkins. I just don't have enough space. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. As we go older, we'll get more space, which will really help us out. Next for
Ideally,
seeds
it'd
is
be enough of us.
Are you good?
No, you're all right. Go ahead, buddy.
Next for seeds is kind of like for water, like how to water them. I feel like that's kind of easy too. I just water them every day. If you keep them really wet, they'll be alright. But you do gotta make sure you don't
Uh-oh.
overwater them. But that's kind of easy with a spray bottle. At least
Yeah,
I feel.
once you start gaining like foliage and things start getting tight because they're the 10 by 20 is packed quite close together.
Yeah.
Um, Top watering becomes contraindicated because of fungal issues,
Mhm.
even with sufficient airflow. So I tend to switch to bottom watering as quickly as possible, but
That's a good
spritzing
call.
every day is nice. But like we look at our plants every day. Some people aren't like wild about it and check their
Mhm.
plants out 3 and 4 and 5 times a day. So we know when like something's needing water, something looks light or something looks dry and you're not doesn't look right. So
Yeah.
we notice those things, but something that was a really big like time saver for me this year was switching to bottom watering. While everybody's germinating, I'd spray the top after soaking really good before I put the seeds in and then spray every couple of days. But now I just bottom water on Sunday and Wednesday and I'm usually pretty good.
Yeah. Exactly. And you just gotta watch for water, make sure it ain't getting nasty. But yeah, once stuff starts sprouting,
Oh,
especially
oh,
with you'll see a lot of these trays now. You like Trevor's talking about the big like 20 by 10s. A lot of times they're black. The ones I get, like the trays are clear plastic. I think it's like 3 by 5s. So you could see, but like how roots are going. So once they get a little bit deeper, you know, okay, I'm gonna bottom water. They're gonna be eating up that water and loving it. So kind of
yep.
like kind
And
of Trevor said, just thawing it out.
eventually you start to notice a pattern like how much water is too much water because I have to pour it out at the end of the day, or how much water is not enough
Good tip.
water because it still looks dry on top.
Hmm.
But I I've lost stuff to fungus because of it, not because of poor airflow, but just because of it's too wet. Like then it's too tight. Like it's too tightly
Yeah.
packed. And if we were able to spread things out a little more, it wouldn't be a problem. But like I live in a small space, so things are kind of stacked tightly until we get outside. But
Hmm.
pro tips: bottom watering prevents a lot of fungal issues because you're not spraying the foliage. But
Hmm. And
You need
especially like
the
Walmart
not the
sells ones,
appliances, but the
um, like Trevor's saying, that have like self-wicking bottom watering. So if you use those
hmm
ones, and here's a good tip: if the end of the day, if a self-wicking's bone dry, you didn't put enough water in it. If there's still water at the bottom of it, because it's self-wicking, you know that there's too much water in it. So you could basically add it out very easily. Because like the self-wicking ones are better than like the ones that I used are just like straight plastic, because the wicking is part of the absorption system at that point. Um,
never never shy from just spraying shit with water though. You got or just pouring water right on top of it. Just try and pour it at the base of it.
mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, they've been doing this shit for thousands of years, folks. It's not like we got to reinvent the wheel. There's a
Oh, I
thousand
agree.
ways to skin a cat. Just get the seeds in the dirt.
Yeah. The only thing of fungal is like since we use like modern technology, things like these seed trays, we gotta be careful about it. But like we were saying, like a
Future.
spray bottle is perfect. So make sure you're using that. You don't need like actually like watering seeds like you water a whole garden. But obviously you should know that while you're starting gardening.
Pull up with the watering can.
And we kind of already talked about soil mediums, so that's nice because we covered that. You know, like how we said we can get like the fiber ones, cocoa, or just a whole bunch of stuff. Actual soil, like germinated soil that you can get at parks and Canfield. Um, the next stage after that's the veg stage, and that's basically when you start needing that. Like you don't. It depends on the plant, but like obviously when it's seeding, veg is like once it gets. Actually, I don't like calling it flowering, but what's the best way to put it?
The
Leaves.
vegetation is growing. The
Yeah, the
leaves and
leaves are
the
growing.
stem is
Is it
developing,
always
and
when you get two leaves, or does that always depend on like certain plants and like basil? When you get the second leaf, you're at veg stage for like cross.
most plants, the first two leaves are referred to as cotyledons, I believe is how it's pronounced. Don't haze me for this. Um, but those are like the seedling leaves, and that's where the plant is deriving most of its nutrients from for the first couple primary leaves of development. After the root gets time to develop and the plant gets to stack on a couple of leaves, which are quite literally solar panels, to
Yeah.
like help feed itself and run its systems, it'll switch to eating and drinking off of the um like the nutrients available in the soil
In the soil.
surrounding the root system.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, I should probably fertilize my inside plants, but I don't want to time that up poorly and wind up with way more plant than I can
Mm-hmm. But
deal
like
with
that's
between
kind of what
now
we're
and
getting to is
outside.
like that's when you add nutrients. Now we're not talking about
Yeah.
compost because we're talking about that later. It should already have compost in your actual garden or wherever you're putting
Mhm.
it. But you need to add like fertilizer at that point so it actually gets some of that nitrogen. Is it nitrogen or nitrous? Nitrogen from the soil and all
Nitrogen.
that good stuff.
Yeah, I recommend using like a fish-based liquid soil media or fertilizer for while they're really young because it's really gentle. I think it's a 111 and it's organically sourced. Or even just stick with if you have access to worm castings and worm tea, go that route.
Yeah.
I've seen my plants freaking explode after you put a little bit of that worm sauce on them. It goes crazy. I don't know what they put in that stuff, but I just
Yeah.
throw the kitchen scraps in the box and that gives me stuff that feeds my plants. And as long as the
Mm-hmm.
food looks and tastes good, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are pro chemically supporting their plants. They don't realize that they're actually taking away from the plant's ability to source these nutrients organically and naturally, and it also locks the microbiota and the small organisms that make the nutrients bioavailable out of the food cycle because they can't eat the inorganic shit. They need organic stuff to make it bioavailable. And if they're just
Mm-hmm.
synthetically placing it there, they have no job. They took our jobs, so they they have to go find work somewhere else, and usually they
Mm-hmm.
don't. And then you wind up with dead soil that we can only grow in the top 4 inches of. And we're
Yeah.
running out of topsoil, folks. We need to start making our own soil and making our own freaking compost. We're doomed.
Yeah. Well, I do have to say sorry. As an engineer, we'll be fine. We could like me and Trevor talk a lot
Probably the
about this. We'll be okay. That's a little bit of
yeah,
a
but how
far
unnatural will it
fetched.
be?
How unnatural, buddy? It's you could use natural processes to fix
I
anything.
hope so.
Just like you do at
Yeah,
home,
I'll
they
tell
could
that to
do it
medicine.
anywhere. Um,
I hope.
so I mean, like you're doing it right now, we're doing it right now. So it doesn't mean that they can't do it. Um, but one thing to
Hire the worms,
keep in
folks.
mind too is you need fertilizer. So if I'm not mistaken, worms compost, not fertilizer, right?
Yeah, but fertilizers are gonna serve the same purpose, especially if it's an organic fertilizer. It's just making nutrients bioavailable. Compost is just
Mm-hmm.
the byproduct of organic molecules breaking down and being made bioavailable for the plants to absorb.
Yeah, I think
Their
there are differences though, because you need to keep fertilizing
um
like throughout for a year.
concentrations.
You need to keep fertilizing throughout the year, while you only need to compost after every grow. So there are differences, and I know like if you want to get into like the details of the actual like ecosystems, you need a little bit of fertilizer because how ecosystems work, you have animals dying at the surface. So you have worms
Mm,
obviously at the base, but like you're saying, they need organic material to live. How do they live? Stuff dies at the surface. It gets broken down by decomposers. We're not going to go too detailed about that.
mm,
So like I feel like the more you get like that whole or like that whole system of just everything in your soil, you're set. I mean, and that's how it is in life. You know what I mean? Like without us touching it
mm.
and fucking it with like Monsanto, but not like every gardener's Monsanto, obviously.
Boo Monsanto.
But
No,
like
not
for
every
one
garden
thing
is
with
Monsanto.
fertilizers, you have to like if you're buying like any of them, you just have to stay to directions because you can kill a plant
Hmm.
pretty easily by over nitrogening it and under nitrogening it. Now compost, you can compost the fuck out of that soil, and that plant's gonna be happy. And like you could
Yeah.
do it once or twice a year, but so you have to make sure that you're kind of like staying two directions because I know people that told me like they couldn't garden and they probably just didn't fertilize it right because even if you buy good soil for $20-$30 bags of soil with compost in it and you just grow out of it and not fertilize it throughout the year, you're fucked.
There are some people that just like do not know how to pay attention to a plant. Like there are some plants that you're like, I haven't seen it in a week or two, it'll be fine. And there's some plants if you don't look at it for 2 weeks, like you're fucked. Like that thing
Yeah,
died last week.
especially tomatoes in the summer, you have to like stay on it. I
Right.
watered mine twice today last year.
Especially
It all
while it
depends
was
what
in
they're
while it
into.
was growing in the raised bags or the grow bags, man, that shit was like 3 times a day for a minute. That was
Yeah.
wild. I felt like I was like the nature defender.
But a lot of that, and we'll go talking about beds here in a second. Is kind of like
Cool.
what the color and like what they're made out of, because I've been watching a lot of videos and it makes sense as like a metal aspect that like if you make a metal bed, it's gonna generate more heat, which would then like cause the
Hmm.
water to vaporize out of the soil. So like more wooden and natural beds are better. Even resin beds are better than putting a metal bed. But now we're gonna go to like the last stage. Well, not the last stage, but has like cutting and drying out. Is a flowering stage. And this is like obviously like when you'll be watering the most. You're gonna be watering a little bit during veg, like we were saying, but flowering is like what we were just talking about, where you're gonna be watering probably 3 times a day for tomatoes. All depends on your plant. A good tip is just put a little finger in there, see how the soil's doing. If you're watering it and like it's actually not like infiltrating through the soil, or you got to like put more water in it. Something I like to do, especially because like all my stuff's facing south, so it gets really hot, is I'll water a little bit, like of everything one time. I'll give it about 5 or 10 minutes and actually let like that infiltrate into the water, and then I water it again, which actually causes it to infiltrate more. Um, so like that's a good tip if you have south facing or it gets too hot, or if you have like those black pots or black bags or anything. That's a good tip. Anything else for flowering stage you're thinking, Trev?
Make sure you help the plants. We don't have high enough pollinator concentration to make sure everything's going to get pollinated appropriately. You're
Yeah, that's
noticing
a
that
good point.
you're not developing a fruit on your flowers when the flowers are falling off. Go through with the. I mean, you can use your finger. I use a Q-tip because sterility, nurse brain. But um, go up and touch the flowers with a Q-tip or your finger, and then go touch other ones, and then keep touching all the flowers, and do the bee's job for them functionally, just to ensure that you're getting some sort of pollination.
Can
Where
like go
I'm
kind
at,
of like go
thankfully,
back and
my
forth is what you're saying too. So like you touch the bad one, you
yeah,
touch a good
walking,
one, then you touch a bad one. So if a bad one gets
yeah, going,
pollen.
yeah, or even just touch good ones, and the bad ones they're probably aren't gonna stick anyways.
Mm,
But it always helps to support your pollinators in that manner because especially like up where you're at in Girard, there's not a whole lot of bee population, and people think all bugs are like nuisances, but down where I'm at, the ecosystem's been rather left alone. So there's it's buggy. I'm not gonna lie. There's some
mm,
pests that I have to deal with, but I
okay,
get very good pollination rate out here, and really
that's good.
don't have to do it if unless I feel it necessary to go out and try and figure out what's going on. I dealt with an issue with my zucchini last year where the flower was just getting bit off at the end, and it
Mm,
was like I don't know what's doing this to my plants, and I still really haven't identified it. But
yeah,
I'm not a
but like
huge
even
zucchini
living in
person, so I'm
Gerard,
not pressed for it. But
remembering about it, I only had two things not pollinate: one zucchini and one eggplant. Maybe it's being by the
word,
highway, or like that I have a more open back area. But like you could fix that so easily. Lavender, and what I did, and
oh
what you should
yeah,
always
start
do,
bringing in bait.
and like we'll probably talk about this in a whole other episode, like garden planning. But you should have things that bring pollinators in your garden. So like
Mm,
I set up a whole pollinator garden bed. Just bought like a $20 bed from Lowe's, one of them plastic ones. Plant them bad boys. I was telling you about that weird thing that's like a box you could buy. Like I think it's only Kickstarter right now. I'm sending it to you because I just remembered. But it's called Wonder, and it's like a box you buy, and you put like certain things in it that will help pollinators come by. So like honeycombs, pine cones, and like certain like it looks like lavender and stuff that will make
oh
like
hell yeah, it looks like a
bees and
little pollinator
butterflies.
hotel.
Yeah. Especially for butterflies,
Yeah,
since like
sweet.
butterflies don't have that much to eat anymore. Because they're a good
Yeah,
one
dude,
too.
they,
Yeah.
them they need help, bro. People need to be planting milkweed freaking everywhere. Like that stuff needs to go everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the I didn't realize that like the butterflies are literally following the plant in order to get around, and we don't plant the plant, so they just fly around aimlessly until they starve and die and the numbers go down.
Yeah.
But they're literally following the milkweed blossoms north and south from like Washington to Mexico,
Oh wow.
and it's becoming very sparse that they're able to get the available food that they need. I mean, to me, developmentally, it seems weird to be dependent on one food source, but at my Irish ancestors too. But
Huh.
fun facts,
Yeah. Like how did it
plants and
never evolved
milkweeds.
away from that? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
To like live, but maybe. I mean, they're probably not at that
go
stage yet,
monarch
or maybe they
butterflies though.
are. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it makes sense
They're
because like
working on
once
it.
once you put concrete everywhere and cut off those blossoms and like their actual paths, it's hard they get confused. They're not used to that. Um, Now we're gonna go to the actual topics of garden, which we kind of been talking about a little bit. First, we're talking about like different types of pots. You could use like ceramic, plastic, fabric. A lot of these fabric ones, actually, it's interesting that
Terracotta.
they use like HDPE fibers, which is basically plastic fibers. Like we were talking about before, like oh, not all plastic's bad. So a lot of times it's like the HDPE that is like doesn't have PFAS. So like there's food safe HDPE. Like whenever you buy a bucket, you could look at a bucket or say if it's non-food safe or it's food safe. There's different numbers of HDPE. But I ain't pulling all of that up. You can look that up yourself if you need to. Um, I feel like I like fabric for best, but like I feel like ceramics probably like nice to have one day, but like that's expensive as shit. Like if I lived on a farm, I would have a ceramic settery, like a pottery setup, bro, in a barn somewhere with a basement, and just be churning them bad boys. I saw
Langing them.
I saw something how like I think it was I don't know if it was Mayans or maybe people in the Middle East or Asia, maybe in China, but they used ceramic pots that they made very porous, and you put it in the soil, Trevor, and the pot has
Mm.
a little bottle, like a little handle, kind of like a beer stick coming out. You put a lid at it, and
Mm.
that's how you water the plants. Because
So
if you
they're called
just put it in,
Oyas. That was an Aztec invention.
it was Aztec. Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Goddamn. So
Oyas,
like
like
that's
O
smart to
J
use.
A S. Oh
Mm-hmm.
no, it's really awesome because it's just leaching the water out into the surrounding uh, soil space. But those are they're terracotta, which is a super porous, like clay-like kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what
Interesting.
to call it, material, media, but
Clay, I
it
guess. Yeah.
clay, yeah. I like growing in terracotta. It's a pain in the bitch after like a season or two because it gets like really frail and they can get kind of
Broken down.
they get, like mossy and nasty, yeah, and they break down. But like they're pretty awesome. I
Mm.
uh I grow my bonsais in terracotta.
There we go. That makes sense. Keep it porous, but kind of like you're saying,
Moving.
sometimes that porous is bad. Um, and then we're gonna go to beds, which we were kind of talking about before. Like you could do a raised bed, lowered bed. Um, like surface bed is kind of what I consider a
Ground.
lowered bed, like in ground. Yeah. Um, even something I found I'm doing, like they have a lot of I guess they're just like small planters you can keep in your house for window seals. And they have very interesting like irrigation bases, and they have like water indicators and interesting ways to feed them water, so you'll kind of always know how that's going. A lot of that's for obviously like windowsill herbs, or if you want to make like a lavender area, or like I'm making an area for my cat to eat more cat grass and mess that up. So we hype for that.
Sleep in the cat grass.
um,
I got a buddy that's obsessed with growing yards in boxes right now, so he keeps growing wheatgrass and cat grass in like shoebox size bins and just keeping them high and tight. I'm like, you're wild, bro. Dude's just the shit that entertains this man.
that's interesting. What do is that what they call like micro growing or whatever? Kind of like
Kind
people
of
have those crazy like garage setups with crazy hydro setups, and like
grass on
all
the
the grass
inside.
is like this big. But what do you use that for? Like for a cat, you just like chop it up easily.
Yeah, he cuts it up. Cats eat it, and then he cuts it high and tight.
Mm, interesting.
And then he dries it out, makes tea with it for the cats. And
Let them get high as shit.
hell yeah.
Um, Another thing we should probably go into is like easier ways to make beds, because Trevor did that this year with pallets. There's definitely many ways that you could cheap it out and not have to like spend $200, $500 on crazy like pre-built stuff or anything metal. Like we were talking about before, you kind of don't want to go metal on any type of bed just because it's gonna like heat up the soil and then cause more evaporation, which you're kind of like wasting money on water at that point. Or if you're using rainwater, you're not, but you're still wasting water. Um, and it could also cause like certain plant roots to burn up if you have them too close to the sides as well. But I definitely think a pallet is a good way to go. If you live, by any like industrial area, any cities, you can get pallets for free pretty easily. And it's also sturdy treated wood. Sometimes they're broken up, but it's easy to cut and build stuff out of.
I recommend using a sawzall. Bzz,
Yeah,
done.
sawzalls are easy. If you have a hand or like circular saw, that makes it the easiest. But also unsafe, so be careful with any metal because those have fucking nails in it. And if you use a circular saw and you're not smart, you could get a nail to the leg.
Mm-hmm.
They are powerful. And like Trevor was doing, like you could use nails, you could use a nail gun if you want, just your hand and nails. It's not a difficult thing to do. You could use screws if you want, bolt it up, all depending on what you want to do. Just make sure you put cross supports as well, because you'll see with everything, like if once you put soil in that, um, the soil gets very heavy, but it's not even the base part; it's the top part. So like it can get windy and like this sway over. There's so many gardens I see that are just like on the side, or like even my one raised bed like flipped over because it's too top heavy. So it could definitely happen. Like those windstorms we had that you said knocked over a bunch of your crap a couple weeks ago were insane. Just blowing people
Through my
away.
damn greenhouse.
Yep.
Almost blew me away.
And we'll talk real quick about like hydro setups. I don't know much about hydro setups. I do have some like drip irrigation with water reservoir setups now. Um, but it kind of depends on how you want to go. It's easy for cleanup and but like if you want to grow in gravel and like not pure like soil, you could do it. You can grow in cocoa and like soil if you want, Anthony. But it kind of lots of debate with that one, what to do and what's best. But it's really whatever you like. This is the best part about hydro setups is just how like you're able to grow anywhere, whatever you want if you really want to. Um, You bet your bottom dollar. Once I got a big garage, I'll probably like always have a peach tree set up and a hydro set up. I'll figure it out somehow. We'll get that bad boy going. It'll be huge, but to always have
Oh yeah,
peaches,
inside
bro.
peach trees inside, my guy.
If I lived in Russia, I'd have that, man. I'd have to. A peach tree and an apple tree. Oh, like Siberia's cold
Yeah,
places. Like it's awesome.
I have a buddy that has a micro orchard in his backyard, and he lined his entire fence with different small fruit trees. So he's got like 30 small fruit trees that put out just enough for like two people to enjoy for the season.
Dang. Does he put nets over them or does he just keep them out? I've seen some people
He
like
just keeps
photos
them
like
out.
nets over them, but I don't know. Like they live in like
Has to
I
keep the
think
birds off you.
Arizona. Mm, that makes sense.
Keep them birds from messing with you.
Get a
Oh.
22 and some cats and you'll be alright.
Uh-huh.
But really, the only problem with hydro setups is that a lot of times you gotta just go like the full chemical route, and then you put in like straight chemical water in your plants.
Yeah, and I worry about synthetically sourced things, and I want to grow things sustainably so that way the land that I do hopefully have the privilege to be in control of one day will be growable for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is something me and my sister talk a lot about too. Like in organics, it all depends on what you truly believe in. If I don't remember the exact law, but one of Newton's laws of it, anytime two things touch, it's further six, they exchange atoms. If you believe that with like PFAS and plastic and organics, like we're fucked. But if you believe that like it depends on what it eats and what the plant actually like takes in, like we're not fucked at that point. And that's kind of like what I believe in. Like it doesn't have to be like a such an extreme, especially how nature
Yeah.
cures things. But I was gonna say, speaking like for one or that worm stuff, like Stash Blend is like a bunch of weed YouTubers got together and made a blend for it, all natural stuff. If you can't do worms yourself, that's definitely a very good fertilizer to get and start mixing with your water for stuff. Anything it works for. There's a bunch of other stuff in it too, and you can get like all type of stuff like that online. Um, so if you can't do it yourself too, like that's understandable. Like it's you can get a compost bin and you can get a worm bin anywhere. I feel like having the control of keeping the worm bin warm is kind of hard for some people, especially like you were saying what you had with your own place. Um, but compost a little bit easier. But like, you could go that way, so you don't have to go pure like chemical in a bottle. You could go dried up worm casings that people sell and mixed out with your water. It's not gonna smell good, but obviously it's gonna taste good for the plant. So that's really all that
It
matters in
doesn't
the end.
smell at all.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, man, if it smells, you got something going on.
All right, now I know. Okay.
No, it smells like pleasant and fresh,
Worm
like
castings?
nature. Yeah,
Huh.
bro, if your worm farm
I
stinks,
smelled
you
the
got
bin
issues.
before. I smelled the bin before. The bin doesn't smell good. But what comes out of it
That's
smells good?
that's a lot of times that's the once you dry out the worm castings, there's no smell at all. When it's
Oh,
wet, it
okay.
smells like
I thought you put them in wet, so you dry them out before you like give it to the
wet
plant.
nature. Nah,
Hmm, I see.
it's
But yeah,
just wet
when you
with the
buy them in
worm
a bag, they
juice.
come dried out. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I've smelled a bag, and the bag doesn't really smell like much. Like I've smelled like that is like we
Mm-mm.
talk about espama, however you say it, like organic fertilizer. That's just chickens grounded up, and that smells like death. So worm
Yeah, that
casings
does
do
smell
smell
like death.
better. I gotta put on a mask. I hate it. If it gets in my nose, I gotta like wash my face and clean it out. Ugh, been a rough day. Um,
Clean your face out.
we kind of already went over compost too, so that's it's a little bit about fertilizer. There's so many options, and I definitely think being more sustainable is the end result for anyone. So like worm casings and having your own compost bins is definitely the answer. I also think what's interesting, like you know how your campsite has that wastewater treatment plant. They just use sand
Mm-hmm.
filtration for that. Like when you look in those pits, it's just sand, which is a very classical
Mm-hmm.
thing that
And
like you could do on your own farm.
they add like microbacteria to it too.
I see, but like I think that's to break it down. But if you don't want to break it
Mm-hmm.
down, you could just take all that shit and compost it, which is basically what they
Mm-hmm.
do for like nature's. I think it's called like nature's friendly. It's they take for shit from the Warren treatment plant and basically take the sludge and turn it into compost. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so you could definitely do that. Like we could do that with all of our compost. I mean, all of our sludge at all of our treatment plants, and also sell it for energy. So there's smart ways to be about it as a community and as an individual to do. Um, any other tips about like compost or fertilizer? I'm gonna go grab a charger real quick, but I'll be quick.
Um, you gotta kind of monitor your compost pile like you do a plant. Check up on it. It's not something you gotta look at like every day, but keep an eye on it once a week or so. I recommend tracking your temperatures, especially if you're doing a warm bin, because they can get too hot and die or too cold and die. Um,
Yep.
most composting setups do not like garlic or onion or citrus just because it doesn't break down well and it releases enzymes that can harm the microbacteria.
Mm-hmm. Like if you have a tumbler, just tumble that bad boy once a day. Help it out.
Mhm.
Help it aerate. Some people add water, but like I don't know. We don't live in like Arizona where it's dry as shit.
Yeah, they're
We live in
super dry.
Ohio. We
Um,
have good moisture content in our air, so that actually we love that as planters.
if it stinks, there's something wrong. Compost piles shouldn't smell bad.
Mm. Most of my compost pile is what you're eating right now, just bananas.
Hmm. Bananas, coffee, kitchen
Yeah,
scraps,
I need to
mm,
start throwing my tea scraps in there, but
bread.
besides that, like I eat everything,
Hmm.
bro. That's the one problem. Is that I don't really like have that much leftovers when I eat. So mostly it's just like bananas. But you can't do orange peel. I don't know. Yeah, you can't do orange peels because of the citrus. Um, Now we're gonna go on some quick other ones before we end up the show. Kind of like tools to help, what to get, what to wait for. Obviously, like you need certain tools like pruners and certain cutters and certain trellises. And I ended up buying this year just a big soil scoop because I'm tired of using a small soil scoop. You could find those anywhere. Like Trevor finds out now, MacBids has a lot of crap on there. You could find
Hell
gardening stuff.
yeah. Could also develop a problem with that app.
Yeah, my old coworker was like that. Like he would leave work early sometimes just to. I need to go to MacBids, man. My wife said I gotta pick this up. I said that ain't gonna be me. I'll be like I'll go after work, but it all depends. Like definitely some of the stuff you can get there is just amazing. I know people have gotten freaking kayaks from there, and all they've had is like one hole that you could patch with easy putty and flex seal that bad boy in your set. Some people have like gotten like perfectly good condition stuff from there.
Got coffee carafes, a coffee maker, hot water boiler,
Is that what those coffee holders are
uh,
called? Grass
mm, carafes,
carafes. Okay,
a
it's gonna be perfect
juicer,
for
a
next week.
blender.
'Cause, yeah, next week we got that Vintage Fest going on Belmont
I'll put
at
the
the
Vintage
Expo
Fest
Center.
on Belmont, baby.
So you gonna be serving fresh
Come
coffee
check
from
out
there?
them thrift shops. Hell yeah, Slang and Joe.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna come by. See
Brewskis.
how many people are selling $80 shirts from the '80s and saying, "Oh yeah, I'm not buying
Mm-hmm.
that."
Mm-hmm.
Some of
Man,
those
I
vintage
want
guys think
50
they
bucks
got
for that
gold.
flyer.
Yeah,
Like,
a
bro, I
Browns
got that.
jacket from 2010, $100. You shitting me?
Yeah, and you're like, bro, you want Shadur for that? No thanks.
We're
Womp
gonna start
womp.
seeing Brian Hoyer jerseys here soon for $80 and be like, "What the fuck? Should have kept it."
Because thrifting has become mainstream. Like, why is hand-me-downs freaking popular right now, folks? This has been my turf since I was fucking 6. Get out of here.
It's because the rich hipsters took it over, and then yeah,
Yeah, man.
skyrockets after
I
that
ain't
point.
seen no. I haven't seen no $3 corduroys in a minute.
We got to go to freaking Goodwill, but even then, there's people that's their jobs. They're basically like scalpers or whatever. Go to Goodwill. They know what day the shipments come in, and they don't work, so they go in the morning. They get all the clothes, then they go to their vintage shop and upprice it 80 times.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That
crazy.
hustle
I
though.
need that job. Yeah, that grind.
There's a lot to know though. You got to know what people are looking for. You got to know what fabrics and what prints hold up, what people are actually going to want to spend money on,
Yeah, but
what is not too much to
that's a
purchase
whole
it for.
market thing. Like anytime like you make your life or job controlled by a market, you gotta watch yourself. I feel like, and not
Yeah,
in like a not in
yeah.
like a like threatening way, just like how your life is going. You don't want to be controlled by any markets, but I get it too.
Mhm.
Because like salespeople are like that do certain jobs. But we'll go back on topic. Talking about tools, I'm trying to think what else. I had a good idea this year. Like those $20 coolers from Walmart. They might be like 40 now, but I've had it for a couple years. Just the square ones that have wheels. Put a soil bag in that bad boy, because now I can move it around to like all my garden areas instead of just having to move my garden areas to them or move a whole heavy bag of soil. And then you can close it
Hell
up too
yeah.
and help it not get like too wet. Um, Besides that, like I know a lot of people use like we were talking about, like if you got a hose, like nice hose extenders. I live in an apartment, so this year I'm like setting up like I'm gonna use one of my faucets as a hose. I got like a attachment to put on there that you just flip a valve and it'll go out to a hose outside. To do out a window, but it's definitely way easier than carrying the freaking water around. Um,
Hell yeah.
and like water is definitely interesting too, because like depending on where you live, like our environment's kind of already fucked. So like we mostly get acid rain, but we found out like with a lot of environmental testing that like it doesn't really affect the plants too much, because like soil itself is this for OG one of the best filters we have. It's why we used to use actual soil back in the day for original filters, and now we use like sand and gravel and certain particulates that you can consider soil. Um, but we're finding out even with acid rain that like these plants, it affects the like leaves obviously once the plants get on it. So like if you live in Ohio and you have a bad air quality day, if it rains, good tip is to go and it's like touch all your plants, get that water off of them, because sometimes like you'll get like these white spots on your plants from the acid rain. Um, but the soil itself is fine because that's what infiltrates it. The roots are not at the top soil. The roots are down low. So as long as the soil was decent and not like obviously like mostly covered in plastic and PFAS from other shit, it could do a good job infiltrating it to your plant. But really, like you do got to make sure that like it's still decent water you're giving your plant. Um, Rainwater is good too, but even then, like acid rainwater, like it is a ton. You can go in debates about it all day, but people don't love to, or big environmental people would go and debate about it all day. But you always kind of have to collect rainwater. It's the cheapest way, especially like if you're on a mass farm, man. And there's ways to infiltrate. There's ways to filter it as well. So if I had 2 acres, it wouldn't cost me 10 grand to set up a rainwater collection system with a filter. Which anyone that has a
Mhm.
massive place or massive garden should kind of like make that investment. Might even be like 5 grand. I won't lie, because like you don't need to spend that much. And like the sand filter itself is very cheap. Last ending thing, I was kind of want to talk about like apps to help. Because like me and Trevor talked a lot about Planter, which is an app you could pay. I don't actually think you have to pay for it for everything.
Mm-mm.
So that's nice.
No, there's bonus information or premium info.
Yeah, and like it's good with like you set your frost dates, but like me and Trevor were talking about, you kind of can go a little bit earlier than what the app says, because like app says like put in eggplants and tomatoes now. You could be safe doing it a little bit early just because of how like indoor setups are. If you have a heat mat, if you don't have a bare window, if if your seeds are in a pretty warm area that doesn't get cold at night, you're gonna be fine. It's not gonna mess nothing up. Um, an OG one is Excel, at least for planning and dates and if you want to organize well. Planner's nice because they kind of give you like a 2D graph, kind of like symmetric of your garden. You can put how big it is for each one, and it's awesome at that point. But you kind of, unless you like go to certain tabs, you can't see like a table of everything that's in my garden. So something that I like to do is like I'll put that all in Excel, and then also take the dates from Planter or like whatever seeds packets say, and photos in Excel too. Um, just so you can kind of like manage everything better and plan it out better. You don't have to do it, but once you're getting at like Trevor's level that you're doing a ton, you have to manage it. And like obviously, like farmers manage of certain ways. I'm not a farmer. I don't know what programs they use, but they probably use certain programs they're given, or even just Excel too to map that crap.
Some of them just pray.
True. You get good with your head in it though and timing it. And I feel like I don't know,
Hmm.
like planner helps and like you don't like really the start dates are really the ones that like matter. Like obviously like you don't need to put like when is it going to be due, but it still kind of matters when it will be due because then you need to know like okay that week I need to be harvesting potatoes or I need to be harvesting my tomatoes. That I kind
That
of
and
like
some
just like for
things
planning
grow to a
aspects.
certain age. If they grow too long in a small pot, they're not going to take to growing outside again. They're just going to stunt and stop moving.
Yeah, no
So
for
your
sure.
timing's got to be kind of slick. And then it sucks if you have plants that are growing too big indoors too, because you started them too early. But you can also have, it's the tightrope, man. Everybody
Yeah,
kind of gets a rhythm. You just gotta keep growing shit.
I agree, and that's why
Oh,
I'm kind of like vague, like falling off. Like you don't have to do dates because like even if you put that like every date that's gonna happen on Excel, it could happen earlier, it could happen later. Like that's just nature. Like not everything's like
yep.
perfect. So you have two plants that act totally different, which that's just a great part about it as well. If you really love computers and love managing shit, Microsoft Project Manager I had to use in a lot of my old jobs and stuff I was in for school. That would actually be really good to see a visual representation because there's sidebars. So like, let's say like it basically shows you what planner shows you. Well, like you know what I mean? It'll be like time outside you could see on a sidebar. But then you could print that out, put it on the wall. I don't do that, but obviously people that love that type of stuff, just a good tip for that and staying organized. Anything else you're thinking of?
Nah, not right now, buddy.
Oh, that's good. I just kind of want to have a quick garden episode. We'll go more in detail in the future about certain things. But we covered a lot of topics, and I don't want to like totally burn people out on the same topic over and over again. Um, been going a little bit longer than an
No,
hour now, so but that's kind of how we go. We love talking.
man.
Anything else on your end, Trevor? Before we go?
Nah, thanks for hanging out, guys. Go check out the coffee shop, Crash Cart Coffee Co. on Instagram and Facebook, crashcartcoffee.co to order your beans or just hit me up in the DMs. We'll be at Vintage Fest in Girard slash Liberty on March 29th, and then we have nothing scheduled for April, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for places to drop shop and slang brew. So let me know. Um,
You have to let
any
you do
bright ideas,
with
send them my way.
Earth Day and 420. Oh no, Easter's 420 this year,
Fact.
but Easter's
Oh well,
420. Crap.
Easter's
The day before, I guess.
420 towards
That's
that.
Saturday.
Man, fucking Easter's on 420. 420's on Easter.
I'm about to eat so much.
I don't know how to word this. I'm about to eat a lot of ham and smoke a lot of turkey.
Eat a lot of deviled eggs. Get my
Yeah,
stomach
I'm about to
upset.
piss my GI system off.
For fun family stuff.
The whole thing.
So yeah, well, let's see what other events are happening. But yeah, please stop by Vintage Fest. I'll be over there for a little bit. Like we were talking about, I want to see the expensive clothes and whatever people are selling. Get a cup of coffee from Trev. Um,
Slang and brew, man.
yep. I hope everyone has a great start to their week
Coffee
on
slash
Monday
cold brews.
and a great
Yep,
rest of
good
the
luck.
Sunday.
Don't let the scaries get you. Take a good shower today, folks. Wash your stanky asses.
Yep. Take a walk outside.
Godspeed. Yep,
All right,
take a walk
everyone.
outside.
We'll see you. Have a good
Don't
day.
wear socks.